The Prime Minister isn't working, and he certainly isn't working for Canadians. Canadians want jobs, homes, and hope. There is hope for this great country, but Liberals need to stop pretending that everything is fine. It's not. Canadians want a government that leaves behind the illusions and instead focuses on delivering results.
The Honourable Member for Moncton, Dieppe.
Mr. Speaker, today social workers from across Canada are gathered in Ottawa to celebrate the profession and mark 100 years of the Canadian Association for Social Workers. Having worked in the field myself before entering politics, I fully appreciate the vital role that social workers play in supporting the delivery of health and social services in our communities, our families, and among the most vulnerable. At a time when Canada continues to face overlapping social, economic, and public health challenges, the role of social worker has never been more crucial. Throughout 2026, CASW and its 11 provincial and territorial partners will celebrate the centennial with the theme, Reflecting on Our Past, Reimagining Our Future. This theme is intended to guide the profession as it reflects on the evolution of social work, uplifts the voices of leadership shaping the profession today, and envisions the next 100 years grounded in equity and reconciliation. Please join me in celebrating social workers and the next 100 years of the profession in Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions, questions orales, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The group of 20 nations are all faced with the same tariffs, wars, and energy prices. Yet 19 of the G20 countries are not in recession. That's true. One country is in recession. Will the leader of the only G20 country in recession please stand up?
That is not a question, it's a request. We'll go on to the next question.
Had 2 consecutive quarters of shrinking GDP, the only country in the G20 that can say that. We've lost 112,000 jobs in the first 3 months of this year. And that has left our country with a quarter of its people in food insecurity. Will the Prime Minister tell us whether we are in a recession or a technical recession?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, first may I wish the Leader of the Opposition a very happy birthday. Secondly, I'll even give him his question back, Mr. Speaker.
Petit cadeau. A little gift for you.
What this government is doing is putting in place the foundations of an economy that will be stronger, more resilient, more independent. We are seeing, in the face of U.S. tariffs, in the face of global uncertainty, in the face of higher energy prices, we are seeing business investment accelerating. We are seeing wages growing twice the rate in the United States. We are seeing this country put in place the conditions for sustained prosperity.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate his birthday wishes. I am 47. But that's 50 with inflation. But what I really want as a Christmas gift from a birthday gift from this Prime Minister is someone who will actually answer the question. And Canadians deserve answer, not misinformation. We've had 2 consecutive declining quarters of GDP growth. We are the only country in the G7 that can say that. The only country in the G7 that has seen the economy shrink in 3 of the last 4 quarters, the only country whose GDP is smaller than it was a year ago when the Prime Minister took office. So, will he tell us, are we in a recession or a technical recession? Which is it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's very painful on someone's birthday when you give them a present and they give it back to you. Mr. Speaker, I'll do a little research for the Leader of the Opposition. If you'd like to ask the C.D. Howe Institute, they know the answer to that question. If they'd like to ask the OECD, which today predicts that Canada will have the 2nd strongest economy in the G7 this year and next. That is the answer, Mr.
Speaker. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It's the only promise that he made during the elections. And it's the same thing he said a few days ago. But after he said that, we saw that Canada is the only country in the G20 that is in recession. So that means that Canadians are skipping meals. There are 112,000 Canadians who've lost their jobs. We have the second worst unemployment rate in the G7. Can the Prime Minister stand up and answer a very simple question? Are we in a recession or just a technical recession? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, once again, we have to correct the official record of Parliament. I made a number of promises during the election campaign. The first was to save Canadians from the terrible policies of the Leader of the Opposition. Second, the policies that this government has put in place are allowing us to create a more resilient, more prosperous, stronger, a more sustainable economy and a more independent economy. That's what we're doing.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
All he delivered was a recession. He promised he'd have the fastest growing economy in the G7. He's delivered the only recession in the G7. And while Canadians line up around the street to try and collect from the food bank, this Prime Minister spends $200,000 on in-flight meals for just 3 flights, including $4,200 on creme brulee, $593 on luxury Normandy buttercups. No wonder he's so out of touch with the people whose jobs he's killed. So can he tell us, will he ground his plane and stand up and tell us, are we in a recession?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what I will tell this House is what I hear from international investors and businesses when we travel. What I heard in New York is that Canada is the most attractive destination for foreign infrastructure investment. What I hear from major global investors who want to invest more than $100 billion in this country, what we are already seeing, which is foreign investment that's running in this country at twice the rate of any other G7 economy. That is
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, obviously the multinational corporations that he is profiting are very pleased with the way things are going. As for the Canadian people who are living under his recession, it's another story. They don't have $200,000 meals on 3 private flights, Mr. Speaker. They don't have tax havens so that they can shelter from the high tax burden he imposes on everyone else. He can't even bring himself to utter the word recession, even though the textbook definition tells us that he's the only Prime Minister, the only leader in the G20 who's created one. So will he stand in the House and answer the question, are we in a recession or a technical recession?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are in an economy that is fundamentally being transformed by a government that has a plan. To create a stronger, more independent, more resilient economy, a sustainable economy, an economy that moves from reliance to resilience. And Mr. Speaker, we are already seeing business investment, Canadian business investment up 10% in machinery and equipment. We are seeing our non-U.S. exports up on course to double. We are seeing the strongest inbound investment in
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, another betrayal of Quebec culture. On day 2 of CUSMA negotiations, the government is already asking the CRTC to abandon the 15% increase in royalties required of major online streaming platforms like Netflix, Disney Plus, and Prime. After abandoning the digital services tax, Ottawa is once again sacrificing funding for cultural creation by allowing digital giants to avoid paying their fair share. We're talking about $3.4 billion. Does the Prime Minister know that he's supposed to defend our culture and not barter it away? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the government is starting by defending everyday Canadians. We are focused on affordability. This is a decision focused on affordability for families in Quebec and families across Canada. At the same time, we are investing $600 million